Hadith in religious use is often translated as tradition, meaning a report of the teachings, deeds and sayings of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The Hadith literature was compiled from oral reports that were present in society around the time of their compilation, well after the death of Muhammad. Bukhari's collection is considered by many traditional religious scholars as the most reliable and was compiled 2 centuries after the death of the Prophet. Hadith's reports claim to originate from important characters of the earliest years of Islam such as the companions of Muhammad or Shia Imams, religious leaders. These Hadith narrations have formed the controversial basis of the Shariah models of Islamic law, despite the alleged contradictions they contain with regards to the Quran itself, such as regarding the punishment for Zina in the Hadith contradicts the Quran, rates of Zakat, definition of Ribba etc. The Hadith has also had a profound influence on molding the commentaries on the Quran. The earliest commentary of the Quran by Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari is mostly sourced from the Hadith, in line with Tabari's Athari creed, which considered rational inquiry in matters of religion to be forbidden. As the application of deductive reasoning in deriving laws directly from the Quran was sidelined, the arbitrary authority of the Hadith was used to replace the Quran in forming the basis of Shariah law. Much of early Islamic history available today is also based on the Hadith. Each Hadith is composed of 2 parts, a chain of authorities reporting the Hadith, and the text itself. Hadiths are regarded by traditional Islamic schools of jurisprudence as important tools for understanding the Quran and in matters of jurisprudence. Hadith were evaluated and gathered into large collections during the 8th and 9th centuries. These works are referred to in matters of Islamic law and history to this day. The largest denominations of Islam, Sunni, Shia, and Ibadi, rely upon different sets of Hadith collections. Clerics and jurists of all denominations classify individual Hadith as Sahih, Hasan and Da'if. However, different traditions within each denomination, and different scholars within each tradition, may differ as to which Hadith should be included in which category. Etymology: in Arabic the word ʼhædɪθ means a report, account, or narrative. The Arabic plural is ʼ3/4 or delta th. Hadith also refers to the speech of a person. It is a noun. Definition: in Islamic terminology, the term hadith refers to reports of statements or actions of Muhammad, or of his tacit approval or criticism of something said or done in his presence. Classical hadith specialist Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says that the intended meaning of hadith in religious tradition is something attributed to Muhammad but that is not found in the Quran. Other associated words possess similar meanings including, Khabar often refers to reports about Muhammad, but sometimes refers to traditions about his companions and their successors from the following generation. Conversely, Athar usually refers to traditions about the companions and successors, though sometimes connotes traditions about Muhammad. The word sunnah is also used in reference to a normative custom of Muhammad or the early Muslim community. Hadith Qudsi: Hadith Qudsi is a subcategory of hadith which Muslims regard as the words of God, though not included in the Quran. According to As-Sayyid Sharif al-Jujani, the Hadith Qudsi differ from the Quran in that the former are expressed in Muhammad's words, whereas the latter are the direct words of God. An example of a Hadith Qudsi is the Hadith of Abu Hurairah, who said that Muhammad said, "When God decreed the creation he pledged himself by writing in his book which is laid down with him, my mercy prevails over my wrath." Components: the 2 major aspects of a hadith are the text of the report, which contains the actual narrative, and the chain of narrators, which documents the route by which the report has been transmitted. The sanad, literally support, is so named due to the reliance of the hadith specialists upon it in determining the authenticity or weakness of a hadith. The isnad consists of a chronological list of the narrators, each mentioning the one from whom they heard the hadith, until mentioning the originator of the matn along with the matn itself. The first people to hear hadith were the companions who preserved it and then conveyed it to those after them. Then the generation following them received it, thus conveying it to those after them and so on. So a companion would say, "I heard the Prophet say such and such." The follower would then say, "I heard a companion say, I heard the Prophet." The one after him would then say, "I heard someone say, I heard a companion say, "I heard the Prophet," and so on. Usage: the overwhelming majority of Muslims consider hadith to be essential supplements to and clarifications of the Quran, Islam's holy book, as well as in clarifying issues pertaining to Islamic jurisprudence. Ibn al-Saylah, a hadith specialist, described the relationship between hadith and other aspect of the religion by saying, "It is the science most pervasive in respect to the other sciences in their various branches, in particular to jurisprudence being the most important of them." The intended meaning of other sciences here are those pertaining to religion, explains Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Quranic exegesis, hadith, and jurisprudence. The science of hadith became the most pervasive due to the need displayed by each of these three sciences. The need hadith has of its science is apparent. As for Quranic exegesis, then the preferred manner of explaining the speech of God is by means of what has been accepted as a statement of Muhammad. The one looking to this is in need of distinguishing the acceptable from the unacceptable. Regarding jurisprudence, then the jurist is in need of citing as an evidence the acceptable to the exception of the later, something only possible utilizing the science of hadith. History: traditions of the life of Muhammad and the early history of Islam were passed down mostly orally for more than 100 years after Muhammad's death in AD 632. Muslim historians say that Caliph Uthman ibn Affan of the Rashidun Empire, or third successor of Muhammad, who had formerly been Muhammad's secretary, is generally believed to urge Muslims to record the hadith just as Muhammad suggested to some of his followers to write down his words and actions. Uthman's labors were cut short by his assassination, at the hands of aggrieved soldiers, in 656. No sources survive directly from this period, so we are dependent on what later writers tell us about this period. By the 9th century the number of hadiths had grown exponentially. Islamic scholars of the Abbasid period were faced with a huge corpus of miscellaneous traditions, some of them flatly contradicting each other. Many of these traditions supported differing views on a variety of controversial matters. Scholars had to decide which hadith were to be trusted as authentic and which had been invented for political or theological purposes. To do this, they used a number of techniques which Muslims now call the science of hadith. Shia and Sunni textual traditions. Sunni and Shia hadith collections differ because scholars from the two traditions differ as to the reliability of the narrators and transmitters. Narrators who took the side of Abu Bakr and Umar rather than Ali, in the disputes over leadership that followed the death of Muhammad, are seen as unreliable by the Shia. Narrations sourced to Ali and the family of Muhammad, and to their supporters, are preferred. Sunni scholars put trust in narrators, such as Aisha, whom Shia reject. Differences in hadith collections have contributed to differences in worship practices and Shariah law and have hardened the dividing line between the two traditions. Extent and nature of the textual corpus in the Sunni tradition. In the Sunni tradition, the number of such texts is 10,000 plus or minus a few thousand. But if, say, 10 companions record a text reporting a single incident in the life of the Prophet, hadith scholars can count this as 10 hadiths. So Musnad Ahmad, for example, has over 30,000 hadiths but this count includes texts that are repeated in order to record slight variations within the text or within the chains of narrations. Identifying the narrators of the various texts, comparing their narrations of the same texts to identify both the soundest reporting of a text and the reporters who are most sound in their reporting occupied experts of hadith throughout the 2nd century. In the 3rd century of Islam, hadith experts composed brief works recording a selection of about 2,000 to 5,000 such texts which they felt to have been most soundly documented or most widely referred to in the Muslim scholarly community. The 4th and 5th century saw these 6 works being commented on quite widely. This auxiliary literature has contributed to making their study the place of departure for any serious study of hadith. In addition, Bukhari and Muslim in particular, claimed that they were collecting only the soundest of sound hadiths. These later scholars tested their claims and agreed to them, so that today, they are considered the most reliable collections of hadith. Toward the end of the 5th century, Ibn al-Kaysirani formally standardized the Sunni canon into 6 pivotal works, a delineation which remains to this day. Over the centuries, several different categories of collections came into existence. Some are more general, like the mu'ah to the first pound anaf, the mujam, and the jami, and some more specific, either characterized by the topics treated, like the sunan, or by its composition, like the arba'inayati. Extent and nature of the textual corpus in the Shia tradition. Shia Muslims do not use the 6 major hadith collections followed by the Sunni, as they do not trust many of the Sunni narrators and transmitters. They have their own extensive hadith literature. The best-known hadith collections are the 4 books, which were compiled by 3 authors who are known as the 3 Muhammads. The 4 books are, Kitab al-Kafi by Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Kulayni al-Razi, Man la Yadaru al-Faqih by Muhammad ibn Babu'a, and al-Chadhab and al-Istibsa both by Sheikh Muhammad Tisi. Shia clerics also make use of extensive collections and commentaries by later authors. Studies. Hadith studies are a number of methods of evaluation developed by early Muslim scholars in determining the veracity of reports attributed to Muhammad. This is achieved by analyzing the text of the report, the scale of the report's transmission, the routes through which the report was transmitted, and the individual narrators involved in its transmission. On the basis of these criteria, various classifications were devised for hadith. The earliest comprehensive work in hadith studies was Abu Muhammad al-Ramah Hurmuzi's al-Muhaddith al-Fazl, while another significant work was al-Hakim al-Naysaburi's Rifat Ulam al-Hadith. Ibn al-Saylah's Ulam al-Hadith is considered the standard classical reference on hadith studies. Terminology. By means of hadith terminology, hadith are categorized as a to the first pound or delta yen, EAF, or mu'ah angstrom. Other classifications used also include, a yen arsan, which refers to an otherwise a to the first pound or delta yen report suffering from minor deficiency, or a weak report strengthened due to numerous other corroborating reports. And munkar, which is a report that is rejected due to the presence of an unreliable transmitter contradicting another more reliable narrator. Both Sahih and Hasan reports are considered acceptable for usage in Islamic legal discourse. Classifications of hadith may also be based upon the scale of transmission. Reports that pass through many reliable transmitters at each point in the isnad up until their collection and transcription are known as mutawatir. These reports are considered the most authoritative as they pass through so many different routes that collusion between all of the transmitters becomes an impossibility. Reports not meeting this standard are known as ahad, and are of several different types. Biographical evaluation. Another area of focus in the study of hadith is biographical analysis, in which details about the transmitter are scrutinized. This includes analyzing their date and place of birth. Familial connections. Teachers and students. Religiosity. Moral behavior. Literary output. Their travels. As well as their date of death. Based upon these criteria, the reliability of the transmitter is assessed. Also determined is whether the individual was actually able to transmit the report, which is deduced from their contemporaneity and geographical proximity with the other transmitters in the chain. Examples of biographical dictionaries include, Abd al-Ghani al-Maqdisi's al-Kamal fi Asma al-Rijal, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's Tahdhab al-Tahdhab and al-Dahabi's Tadhkirat al-Hufaz. Criticism of hadith by Islamic scholars. Syed Ahmed Khan is often considered the founder of the modernist movement within Islam, noted for his application of rational science to the Quran and Hadith and his conclusion that the Hadith were not legally binding on Muslims. His student, Shariah Law, went further, suggesting nearly all the Hadith were fabrications. Ulam Ahmed Pervez was a noted critic of the Hadith and believed that the Quran alone was all that was necessary to discern God's will and our obligations. A fatwa, ruling, signed by more than 1,000 Orthodox clerics, denounced him as a kafir, a non-believer. His seminal work, Mahkami Hadith, argued that the Hadith were composed of the garbled words of previous centuries, but suggests that he is not against the idea of collected sayings of the Prophet, only that he would consider any Hadith that goes against the teachings of Quran to have been falsely attributed to the Prophet. The 1986 Malaysian book Hadith, a re-evaluation by Qasim Ahmad, was met with controversy and some scholars declared him an apostate from Islam for suggesting that Hadith are sectarian, anti-science, anti-reason and anti-women. C. Criticism of the Hadith by Muslims. Western academic scholarship. Early Western exploration of Islam consisted primarily of translation of the Quran and a few histories. In the 19th century, scholars translated and commented upon a great variety of Muslim religious texts. By the beginning of the 20th century, Western scholars of Islam started to critically engage with these Islamic texts. Ignaz Goldziher is the best known of these turn-of-the-century critics, who also included D.S. Margolioth, Henri Lemons, and Leonie Catani. Goldziher writes, in his Mohammedan Studies, "It is not surprising that, among the hotly debated controversial issues of Islam, whether political or doctrinal, there is not one in which the champions of the various views are unable to cite a number of traditions, all equipped with imposing isnads." John Esposito notes that modern Western scholarship has seriously questioned the historicity and authenticity of the Hadith, maintaining that the bulk of traditions attributed to the Prophet Muhammad were actually written much later. He mentions Joseph Schacht as one scholar who argues this, claiming that Schacht found no evidence of legal traditions before 722, from which Schacht concluded that the Sunnah of the Prophet is not the words and deeds of the Prophet, but apocryphal material dating from later. Contemporary Western scholars of Hadith include Herbert Berg, Frederick M. Dunner and Wilfred Madelung. Madelung has immersed himself in the Hadith literature and has made his own selection and evaluation of tradition. Having done this, he is much more willing to trust Hadith than many of his contemporaries. Madelung said of Hadith, "Work with the narrative sources, both those that have been available to historians for a long time and others which have been published recently, made it plain that their wholesale rejection as late fiction is unjustified and that with, not without a judicious use of them, a much more reliable and accurate portrait of the period can be drawn than has been realized so far." Harold Motzki said, "The mere fact that a hadith and a sanad were forged must not lead us to conclude that all of them are fictitious or that the genuine and the spurious cannot be distinguished with some degree of certainty." See also, Prophetic biography, references. Bibliography, Berg, H. The Development of Exegesis in Early Islam, The Authenticity of Muslim Literature from the Formative Period. Routledge. ISBN A0-7007-1224-0. Lucas, S. Constructive Critics, Hadith Literature, and the Articulation of Sunni Islam. Brill Academic Publishers. ISBN A90-04-13319-4. Robinson, C.F. Islamic Historiography. Cambridge University Press. ISBN A0-521-62936-5. Robson, J. Hadith. In P. J. Behrman, Th. Byank, C. E. Bosworth, E. Van Donzel and W. P. Heinrichs. Encyclopedia of Islam Online. Brill Academic Publishers. ISNA 1573-3912. Sarup, Ram. Understanding Islam Through Hadiths. Exposition Press, Smithtown, New York, USA. Brown, Jonathan A. C. Criticism of the Proto-Hadith Canon, Al-Daraqtani's Adjustment of the Sahih. Journal of Islamic Studies 15, 1-37 doi, 10.109315.1.1. Riesp Centuk, Narrative Social Structure, Anatomy of the Hadith Transmission Network, 610-1505. Jonathan Brown, The Canonization of al-Bukhari, and Muslim. The Formation and Function of the Sunnah Occurrency Ada Th. Further reading, 1000 Qudsi Hadiths, An Encyclopedia of Divine Sayings. New York, Arabic Virtual Translation Center. ISBN 978-1-4700-2994-4. Halak, Wailby. The Authenticity of Prophetic Occurrency Ada Registered Trademark Th. A Pseudo-Problem. Studia Islamica, 75 €90 doi, 10.2307/1596086. ISNA 0585-5292. JSTORA 1596086. Brown, J. The Canonization of al-Bukhari and Muslim, The Formation and Function of the Sunni Hadith Canon. Leiden, Brill, 2007. Junbol, Gha Encyclopedia of Canonical Hadith. Leiden, Brill, 2007. Lucas, S. The Arts of Hadith Compilation and Criticism. University of Chicago. OCLCA 62284281 Musa, A.Y. Hadith as Scripture, Discussions on the Authority of Prophetic Traditions in Islam, New York, Palgrave, 2008. ISBN 0-230-60535-4, Frederick M. Dunner, Narratives of Islamic Origins, Warner, Bill. The Political Traditions of Muhammad, The Hadith for the Unbelievers, CSP ISBN 0978552873, Totali, Roberto, Hadith, in Muhammad in History, Thought, and Culture, an Encyclopedia of the Prophet of God, edited by C. Fitzpatrick and A. Walker, Santa Barbara, ABC Clio, 2014, Vol I, ppA 231 a €236. External links, Importance of Hadith, Hadith search by keyword and find Hadith by narrator. Hadith by narrator find Hadith by narrators. Hadith advanced search by keyword. A Hadith. New International Encyclopedia 1905a, ḥædɪθ. Encyclopedia Americana. 1920a.